What can I say? Silksong actually arrived this week, and its arrival prompted the collapse of just about every gaming store available, making it extremely difficult to actually buy. But, hats off to the developers here. It's going to be hugely popular. And John, you've been playing it, right? It's not exactly a Digital Foundry game in terms of pushing technological limits, but you were extremely impressed with what you saw, right?
I like to cover 2D games with plenty. I admit, for starters, I wasn't a gigantic fan of the original Hollow Knight. There was just things about it. It was a bit repetitive. I didn't like the way the character looked and moved, and there's just things about it I didn't love. But I always recognized it as a great game. This one actually feels a lot nicer so far, based on what I've played. But beyond that, there is actually a technical reason here. The thing that pushed me to actually give it a shot comes down to some very uncommon features for 2D platformer in games. That is, it supports ultra-wide monitors, and it runs with an uncapped frame rate.
Yeah.
And you don't usually think about platform games when you think about high frame rates. But let me tell you, when you experience this, like I'm playing at 330 FPS for this game in ultra-wide, like the feeling you get, it's like your eyes can scarcely comprehend the fluidity that is born out of this. It feels unreal. Like it actually feels like you're physically moving objects around in front of your eyes. You know what I mean? Like it no longer looks like a digital scrolling screen. It really just looks like a physical diorama, like peering into something. It's really, really cool to see. It reminds me, there was another game I love that came out not that long after Silksong, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, which was my game of the year it came out. That was also one of the rare PC games that does uncapped FPS with ultra wide, as a platform game. So, and it really is not a common thing to see. It's very, very unusual. There's mods, like things like Blasphemous 2. You can mod it to have ultra wide, but it's a little bit broken in some ways. This just works. Like you just right in there. It's super smooth. I also installed the Reno DX HDR mod for it, to tweak it further. So, I mean, I was just like in awe of like seeing this running on this screen, running so smoothly with this HDR and like the clarity of everything. And because Hollow Knight's a dark game, OLED is like perfect for it because you get that super rich, deep contrast between the blacks and the highlights. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight that like beyond being a popular big game, they're actually doing some stuff that's really unusual for platforming games. And all of this runs in Unity, by the way, which is another surprise.
Right.
It's a super optimized, super clean, fast Unity game. Mm-hmm. So hats off to the developers for that.
So you're playing on PC, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, nobody's doing ultra-wide on consoles, Rich.
Yeah. I'm just, but obviously the Switch 2 version is available now, and it seems to be running at 120 hertz, which is another laudable thing, I think.
So, from what I gather, the Switch version, this is secondhand, but it has 120 hertz in docked mode, but not portable.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That'd be different.
But I still need to confirm that. That's just from a friend of mine that was checking it out. I also hear that the PS5 version has 120S as well. I suppose it is on Xbox, right? It should also have
Xbox, I believe, yeah.
I would imagine it's also 120 FPS there. Yeah, it is on Xbox, of course. So it's a very performant game. And high frame rates matter a lot with side-scrolling games, more than many genres, I would argue, because there's so much lateral motion, which very specifically does not play nice with sample and hold displays. You get a lot of smearing unless you're like strobing it or on a CRT or something. And this helps mitigate that a ton.
Well, speaking of smearing, John, got this question from Michael Pearn.
Uh-oh.
Hi, team. Not really a question, more a comment. I had the presence of mind to keep my Switch OLED when I bought the Switch 2 and been very disappointed in the low refresh rate of the Switch 2 LCD screen, especially with 2D side-scrolling games. Just purchased Hollow Knight's Silksong on the Switch 1 with the free upgrade for Switch 2 and had a chance to compare between the consoles. And the OLED screen is so much better for colors and image clarity on the Switch 1, albeit with a smaller screen in handheld mode. Just don't understand why Nintendo made these LCD screen compromises for the Switch 2. Surely there are better ways to cut down on its unit price. I think, well, we're going over old ground there, but, just an interesting tie-in to what you're talking about there in terms of image clarity, which is pretty important.
And yeah, that sucks a lot. And this is probably a worst case scenario for that poor LCD screen.
Yeah.
But again, I'm still not convinced that this was ever a cost issue so much where, the LCD in the Switch 2 should be able to update faster than it does. I think it's the way that they're driving it that's the problem, and it's causing it to behave the way it does. So I'm not so sure it's a supply issue so much as just the way that the screen is technically being used within the hardware itself. And I still think, I mean, I don't know if that can be improved or not. It's hard to say. I don't know enough about the Switch 2 motherboard and the way it's driving the screen to say whether that could be updated in software. But either way, I think the Switch 2 could do a lot better, and it specifically sucks for platform games like this.